up, you guys? It's damn right I got knives here with another DRIGK live. Let's see, pretty soon we're going to be having Nardath on here. I've been really looking forward to this one. Nardath was a big inspiration when I first started getting into Balisongs and flipping and checking out that world. So it's going to be fun to see what he has to say. Nardath is sponsored by BRS. Got my Orca here to spend this show with me. Again, I'll be uploading all these episodes to YouTube. Next week, I have SageB coming on. There he is. Let's get Nardath in here. What's up?
What's up?
Here, let me get this. All right. Get that situated a little better there for the two of us. All right. How's it going, man?
Man, good. Yourself?
Doing well. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
I'm like talking to one of my inspirations here. It's pretty cool.
Oh, well, thanks, I guess.
Yeah, you never know where that stuff's going to reach when you're making these videos, you know?
And
oh, yeah. Honestly, you were like, when I first started flipping, I was just looking up Balisongs, looking up things, and your stuff came up, and I got hooked on watching your videos, man. And I don't know if I learned too much. I definitely learned some things from you, but you know, sure.
If you deep dive in my content, you can probably learn a good bit if you're looking for, like, there's a few playlists that I have that you can go through, and that I always kind of recommend if you kind of want to get the vibe, especially like early on. I had some like Bally talks that I did, and some daily flips that I
watched the daily flips. Yeah.
So that was like that was pretty early, but that's basically what made me bloom as a flipper. But we can get into that after as well. But
yeah, I love that shipwreck footage. That I was like, damn, that's so good. I love all those. I love
that's
around.
A whole story in itself. The shipwreck itself was just kind of a odd thing that happened in my life, and I took advantage and made this series, and it came out pretty good. I liked it a lot too.
I love that one where you, like the one I posted where you come out of the ship and then you're like flipping yeah. And then you go close the lid. Those sort of things, cinematography, you know, music in the background. I love that. You know, that's one thing that always inspired me whenever I was watching videos, was like how people put things together. It's fun.
It was kind of silly, but like I've always been kind of silly. Like, so like
silly is great. I mean, yeah. I love that kind of stuff, you know. I don't know, maybe, you know, I do similar things. I'm silly about stuff and I make funny videos, but that's the content I like, and I like watching it in other people, and that inspires me. So
I think a lot of us content creators are kind of nerdy in our own way, and like just making videos is kind of a way to express ourselves. Maybe like some people use art, some people use music, but like content creators are just making funny videos. And it's weird because like I get images in my head when I'm recording myself, and I kind of laugh at myself doing it all the time. You know that movie Napoleon Dynamite? And
yeah,
and there's the uncle, and he's like recording himself like doing a football throw, and like looking stuff at the camera. Anyways, if you're not familiar with it, that's what comes up in my mind every time I record myself. It's just like, why?
Dude, there's old footage of me. I was like making a video back in the day, and I'm like sitting. I had some oops, I have a Tic Tac that just flew out of my mouth. That was funny. I have some candles burning right here, and I'm like looking at the camera, and my hair literally just starts going up in flames, and I was recording it. I have that shit on tape. It's so funny every time I watch it, man. It's just hilarious because I'm like, do it. I should post it, because it would be one of those like funny, like viral videos or something, but I'm like, no way, I'm not posting that shit.
I have a couple of bloopers that I ended up posting that were like, I dropped my knife down a waterfall. Like
I saw that. Yeah.
that was a
Was that
pretty
a
big.
51 or what was it?
That was my 42.
Oh,
Yeah, that was this exact 42.
did you go get it?
Oh yeah. We went back 2 weeks later with the scuba diving. Like I knew a friend who was a scuba diver, and I was just like, hey, I need a hand. We're gonna go retrieve this knife. It was an hour drive and then an hour hike to the spot, and then we just got in, and it was like, I don't know, fall, so it wasn't really warm, but we got in, and he went down and found it within seconds because it was just like this really shiny object in like a very murky, kind of like rocky bottom of a river, right? So he went down, boom, found it, came up, and we're just like, wow, like it was pristine.
And
You
those
know,
probably weren't as expensive back then. I don't know when you filmed it.
no, this was pretty, like, I would say maybe 2015, where 42s have already started going up in value. Like,
So you don't want to lose that. I mean, let alone any Balisong.
Yeah, exactly. So I had, you know, briefly thought about just saying shag it, but I just had to go back. Like I couldn't just leave it in the river.
Hell no.
Someone was going to travel to Newfoundland and retrieve it if I didn't. Guaranteed.
Right. All right, so that takes us to, where do you live?
So I live in Newfoundland, or St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, which is a big island on the east coast of Canada. If you look at a map, it's hard to miss. It's just this big island, and then I'm on the very east coast of the island. So I'm the bottom right, and it's basically like a I'm on a peninsula on the very edge of the peninsula, like the most eastern point of North America, technically.
That sounds amazing.
Mm.
Sounds beautiful.
The weather is not the best, but you know.
Were you born there?
No. I'm a military brat. I was born in Gatineau, Quebec, which is Quebec, like a French province.
All right, yeah.
And basically, I've moved all over the place my whole life. I basically, when I was 4 or 5 years old, I moved to British Columbia, Victoria, and I like lived in an English neighborhood. So I learned English from all the people that lived around, and I still went to French school my whole life, or my whole, right up to 9th grade. I went all in French, and then moved to English, and then it was like back and forth, college, French, English, until I joined the military. But I was all over Canada then, right? So I never lived in one central spot. Right now, I would say my hometown, where I'm from, is Montreal, because all my family are living there now. And I lived there like 5 years in my childhood. So Montreal is basically where I would say I'm from, and I live in St. John's, Newfoundland, which is where my wife is from. And I met her through the Navy. After college, I kind of went in a phase where I was like, I don't know what to do. So I joined the Navy, and basically led to me sailing on a ship with her. And a year later, I moved here, stopped. All right, it was reserves. So I wasn't full-time. I was part-time. So I was able to continue reserves here, and I have continued the reserves. So I've been in reserve now for 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I just kept it up. It's a good side job. It's a good second job. Like it's only, September to May employment. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. Gives you some time off, but you also do like AC work or something?
So my city job, I call it, my main job is refrigeration mechanic. So I do, I've been in a commercial refrigeration, industrial.
Well, it's not cold enough up there. You guys need refrigerators?
That's a funny joke in Newfoundland. They say a lot. Say we don't need air conditioning. We just open the window.
Right.
But it does get very muggy here. Like it's very humid, even in the winter. We get high humid winters, so it never gets down below, because we're so close to the ocean. So we never get below minus 15 Celsius, which I know you guys doesn't mean much in the States, but
right.
we don't really go into very low temps because we're so close to the ocean. But that means that means humider winters. So it's like our -15 feels like -40 because it's so humid.
So you
But in
speak
the
French.
summertime, it's also very humid. So like it's kind of compensates. Still very uncomfortable here in the summers.
So you speak French then?
Fully, yeah, yeah. French is my first language.
And so do you know that French nunchuck lady?
No.
I'm gonna link you to her. I don't never know what the hell she's saying, but you will. And I'm just like, I watch her because her content's really good. She just flips nunchucks and talks about them. And
I know when I joined Balisong community, there was a French Balisong community, and then the French nunchuck community was kind of like pretty similar, like when you search on YouTube. And I knew that the French, like there's a big online French nunchuck community for some reason.
yeah,
But I do follow a couple of them, so
yeah, her stuff is kind of cheesy, but again, you know, nerdy like us, you know. And
it's really funny how a lot of the online like the like skill toy community merges with like Instagram before Instagram, like it was a YouTube and you had to like forcefully look for content. On Instagram, a lot of that stuff gets mangled together, so like that's how I discovered Kendama, was through Instagram.
Right. Okay. We'll get there.
Yeah, that's a big part. For sure.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's fine. I'm 34, so
Okay.
I've been flipping since 2009, which would have made me 24, I believe.
Okay.
If people will do the math, maybe, or 23, 22, something like that.
Right.
I was definitely mid-20s or early 20s when I started.
Are there other people who flip around you in the area?
No. When I started, I picked up a knife. Actually, when I first started, me and my friend who sailed to Boston, we went through Quincy Market, which is like downtown Boston, and it had a knife store, and they had switchblades and stuff that not legal in Canada. Both of us, first time seeing it, we're just like, oh, cool, like let's get some butterfly knives. So we both get like Bear & Son, like $40 cheapies, right? And we ended up sailing like that summer. We ended sailing there 3 times in the stint of like 4 months. And every single time I went to Boston, I would buy a different butterfly knife. So I got a Bear & Son, then I got a Kimura 1, and then I got a 42 the third time I went. And then like I remember sailing to Boston the third time, knowing that store sells a 42, and I was just like, yes, because I didn't really know when I bought the Kimura. Like when I bought the Kimura, I was just like, I need an upgrade, and I didn't want to pay. It was actually $280 in store for the 42, so I was kind of like maybe didn't want to spend $280.
It seemed like a lot when you were first getting into it, right?
Yes. So eventually, when I got the Kimura, it was only $100 at the time. I was like,
I got one of those, and it was like after a while, I was like, no.
No, yeah, it's not a very good Balisong.
No.
And it just turned into this big rust bucket for me, and I sold it, and I can't remember what I got for it, but that's what I was flipping in the what's it called? The shipwreck videos.
Oh, really?
Was the K1, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was one of the knives that I didn't mind traveling with. If I lost it, I was
who cares, right?
Who cares? Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first knife that you remember before? You just told us about Balisongs, but do you have a vivid memory of like, you obviously had an attraction to knives as a kid, and kind of all of us get into Balisongs. Kind of, I remember some earlier times with me as a kid. Why, I don't know why, but I had a fascination with knives. And do you remember a first knife or a story around an early knife?
I do. So I remember I was probably like 5 and 6, very, very young. And I found a knife. We were camping, and I found a knife in the bushes. And it was just like a shitty old, just like pocket knife, brass and wooden liners. And it was just Bowie, very small, probably. In my head, it was like, but in reality, it was probably just like a 3-inch blade or 2.5-inch blade. And I remember just finding it and then like bringing it to my dad and be like, hey, look what I found. And he was like, okay, like this is a good opportunity. We'll teach you how to use it. And ended up just being my pocket knife for years after that. And it was always, having a knife then was always kind of a thing. Like I was like a scout growing up, like, you know, so I always had knives. But as far as why I got into Balisongs, the fact that I was just always had a knife on me was just, it was kind of just a coincidence where, like, yes, I always had a knife on me, but I've always been a manipulator at heart. So that kind of, when that met, like, my first exposure to Balisongs was one of the guys I sailed with. He had gone to France and had just a butterfly, like it was like a CCC with like camo handles, and it was like it's like almost, I can't remember if it was like a Jaguar or like something like that. It was just pin construction, really shitty. And I remember just going there for supper one night, and it was just on the table, and he was just like, oh yeah, grab this handle, and then you just fucking flail around and do whatever, and then you won't cut yourself. I was like, okay.
And your eyes were like, oh.
Oh yeah, I was just like, what? Like, what is this? Like, and I was just doing, like, by the end of the night, I was already doing like double rollouts and, or, you know, like opening and closing it, right? So that was enough to spike my interest that when we sailed to Boston, I saw one. I was like, insta buy, or like insta buy.
Do you EDC a pocket knife nowadays? Do you have a brand?
Yes, yeah. I EDC. It's actually a Revo. Do you know what a Revos are? It's like the BRS.
Oh yeah.
They have an Evo line, and then they have a Revo line, which is, the Revo is like the cheaper versions, and it's just like a really, really small blade. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's like a small, like, pocket knife. I don't even have it on me. It's just in my lunch tin, but I just carry that at work all the time because I don't really.
I sold the
need
Evos in my shop, but not the Revo.
Yeah, the Revo only have a couple, and it was only like $20. Like,
okay.
So yeah, it was dirt cheap, but
I think the Nomad's a good knife, the Evo. It's a bit thick, and big, but it's a cool one.
Yeah. They're a bit pricey for me. Like, when I buy a folder, it's very much like I carried a Milwaukee folder for years. Like, for me, there's just a tool because I lose them all the time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's your collection like now? Do you have a Balisong collection?
I have 4 Balisongs now, without counting like much like trainers or cheap ones. I have the Triforce and a 42. So that's basically it. Like I have the Chab.
Do you read that comment there? Look at the comment.
That's fake.
That must be a friend of yours.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. He's an OG, and he just likes to talk shit. So I'll just ignore him. It's just better. This is a premium replicant. I think it's V1 premium reps, and then I have a V1 BB and my old trusty 42.
Nice.
Which is all. They're all latchless now, fully converted latchless. So.
But you've had a fair amount. I remember your video. You've had ABs. You've had the latchless, or maybe not latchless, but Chab at least.
Yeah. So I had the. This one's the pilot Chab. So that's one I have now.
Oh, it is. Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
No, that's fine. But I had the 1.0 Alpha Beast when it came out, first drop. I had the Venom Bowie Alpha Beast. I had the Infinity modded by some douchebag modder. That's an inside joke. I don't know if you know that one. That's
the Infinity.
Yeah. And then because I've always just like swapped them in and out for what I had. Like, I invested so much money, and then I just traded for upgrades, and like I sold my 1.0 to get the Chab, but that's basically the most regret I had for a trade, because the 1.0.
Teach me something here. The pilot Chab.
Yeah.
What makes that a pilot Chab? Is that modified by?
No, it's just it's like the pre-run. It's like the first run of Chabs.
Oh, okay. Pilot.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Exactly.
And they put that little logo on there?
Yeah.
Okay, I've always wondered what a pilot Chab meant. And I guess I didn't want to feel stupid until just now. And so I'm asking.
So it's just, I think, like, for us, the sponsor team, like, they gave us all the they gave us like pre-order rights, I guess. But they only had us like 100 or something, or something. I can't remember the exact number, but it was pretty low.
No.
But ultimately, there was more complaints about the pilot than there was like people liking it.
Things evolve.
Yeah. No, it's just because people didn't like the actual etching on the blade.
What?
Yeah. People like to complain, so.
Oh, they love to complain. Oh, believe me, yeah. What's your favorite knife to flip?
Being a Canadian, it really depends on outdoor temperature, and it's pretty funny. And it's just maybe it's because of my AC like brain, but in the summertime I really like my Chab. Like, and then in the wintertime when it's cold, I go to my my rep for sure.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
It's just easier on the hands, and I know like my hands are like rough, like they're like leather, like just from years of flipping. But ultimately, it just feels way more comfortable. So
I forgot to ask what you're drinking.
I'm drinking a New England IPA. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. New England IPA from a local. They make craft beer now, but Kitty Vitty, and it's delicious craft beer. But recently, like Newfoundland has really been behind when it comes to draft beer because they had a law that stopped brewers from making small batch, like basically to be a company with a small batch like motto. So basically this company was, before that, they still made a lot of beer, but now they've downsized and made like craft beers. And
Okay.
really good.
Tell us about your sponsorship with BRS. How did that come about?
So Ed and Lawrence are they're OGs, right? So they're the same. They were, to me, they're OGs. Like when I started, I had people that started before me, and I looked up to people like Ed and KZ because I thought they were established. Like they were. Like Ed was very much established. I think Lawrence came a little bit after. Well, they basically, like Ed basically like mentored me through my career as a flipper early on. So I always looked up to Ed, and I always valued his opinion, and we basically had this, not this working relationship, but very much a friendship online. And when because it's hard for people now to understand the vibe in 2010, 2011, where the 42 was very much like everyone's go-to knife by sheer like not mistake, but like coincidence that this one specific model became very like widespread, like standard for flipping, but only because there was nothing else, right? Like
Right.
it wasn't. It was sure it was designed for it was designed for being a knife, right?
It just happened to
40X.
be light.
It just happened to be a very good, light, compact, and durable knife. I don't even know where I was going with this.
Oh, Ed mentoring you.
Oh yeah. So when they started a company, it was still like flipping arena days, and we're all like a still very small knit group. So we had a lot of back and forth, and we weren't part of the company. Clearly, we were part of the process because we were just there giving feedback back and forth, and so I was never part of the team for a long time, right? Till they formally asked me to be, if I wanted to be on the team, because they were just my friends and I was just supporting them, and I only flipped BRS for the longest time, and I still really much do, because that's where I basically capped in my career, was just like I didn't want to invest more money, so basically I flipped what I had, and it was all I had was BRS. So
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, BRS still makes great knives. As much, again, people love to complain, but BRS makes great knives, and people love them still. I mean, I have more BRSs than many other knives.
They were the first company to just straight up come out and make a butterfly knife designed for flippers, made by flippers.
Right.
So
That's
back
their logo.
then,
That's their motto.
yeah, it was not, didn't exist. Like companies might say that they care about what flippers liked, but they didn't act that way. When they come out with models, like BRS would be like, or like Benchmade came out with like the 51, and we're like, no. And then they just came out with 51, special edition, or like they didn't really listen to what the flippers wanted. Like 51's a great knife. I'm not gonna say it's not, but as far as competitive goes, compared to the 42, doesn't even compare in my opinion.
A funny story is I was looking at the BRS, and I'm a huge fan of the movie Blade Runner. It's my favorite sci-fi movie. So I was like, wow, they named their knife company after Blade Runner. That's so ingenious. I love it. $400, $300, whatever. I'm like, what the fuck are those guys thinking? I'm like, I had no idea. And then I was like, well, Nardath flips one. I'm like, okay, if Nardath is flipping one, and literally, seriously, that's how it came about. I was like, okay, I guess I'm getting a BRS, has Blade Runner in there. I'm a huge fan of Blade Runner system, or Blade Runner the movie. Nardath is flipping one. I'm gonna get one. And my first was, I just jumped straight to the Alpha Beast. It was a gold premium, or yeah, is it premium? Yeah, I guess it'd be yeah.
Like the yellow anno or whatever.
Yeah, with the yellow anno.
Nice. Wow,
yeah.
That's a big like just jumping right in.
Yeah, I went from the Kimura to that.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a big upgrade. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and it was worth every penny of it. I mean, every time I flip an AB, I'm like, God, that feels so good. And I sold it to my friend because I have a few others, but every time I flip that particular one, it really does. I'm like, I love the way that one flips. I'm always telling him, like, I'll buy it back from you. I'll buy it back. And he's like, no, but I like it. I'm like, okay, well, when you want to sell it, I want that one back. So yeah, so they sponsored you. Did you ever compete, or do you compete, or I mean, were there competitions like that back then, or was it more like meetups and kind of?
No, I definitely never competed live. I did do basically early on during the forum days. There was a lot of competing online, and it was only like posting videos and then voting. All right, there was back in the flipping arena, there was like a ladder. They called it basically you just competed and challenges were logged, and then wins and losses, you would go up the ladder, and at the top you would see like Slash all the time, like just dominating. But like, then it turned into, but it was just 1v1, and then every year there was Fat Talk, which is Flipping Arena Tournament of Champions, and it's a 5-round event, which was a video a week for 5 weeks, and then everyone would vote at the end of the week. You had a week to vote, and then it would just be like that for 5 or 6 weeks if you think about the voting period. So it was a big event every year, and I did that Fat Talk.
And that was all video based.
Yeah, it was all video based. Yeah.
That's so interesting. It's cool that you know all this history. It's interesting to talk about it because I'm so late to the game, even though I'm old. I'm like, that's why I flip with mostly kids that are like 15, 16 years old. Those are my friends right now, I learn from them, and we all hang out together, and that's great, but it's also cool to, to appreciate what went on before. And I think a lot of the new flippers are like that too. They really do appreciate you guys from that got it going and inspired people and all of that.
It was definitely like pre-Instagram. Like I remember, I was pre-Instagram and like pre-Facebook. This is like forum days where it's like post a video on YouTube, and there was actually Flipping Arena was like had a chat, which just kind of made it a little bit interesting. It had like a very rudimentary chat where you just like, it wasn't like nowadays where it was all these like GIFs and like it was just text and a few emojis. But like that chat became where we hung out basically. And there was no group chats back then. It was just like, it was like chat rooms, right, on forums. So sure, we had a bunch of sub forums where there was like conversations and basically knowledge being dropped, right, like on how to make videos and how to, or competitions. So there was a lot more like organized competitions back then. Felt like nowadays, if you wanted to compete, you go somewhere live, or you like, there's no, or even the online competitions, sure, there's some involvement, but there's always like drama involved as well. And it's like, back then it was like no bullshit. Like, I challenge you to a 1 minute video, and then you would list like all like the things, like, okay, like two-handed, or just one Balisong for 30 seconds, one clip, you have 1 week, do you accept? And then and then if you say no, you just, like, people are like, like, giving you shit for it. And there's a lot of banter, a lot of like like name calling, but like it was all into the, basically just to try to push the people
In
to
good
like
fun.
compete.
In good
Yeah,
fun.
exactly, yeah.
And have you ever been to Blade Show or anything like that?
I've been to Blade Show once in 2016, and that's where the video, like a few of the pictures that you posted were from Blade Show.
Oh,
Or
really?
one of them was, yeah. The really nice one of the bare bones,
Okay, yeah.
that was at Blade Show. Yeah, that was
Okay.
like that was a bare bones prototype.
And were they doing competitions then, or at the?
No, that was the year before the competition like
Got it.
started. Like 2017 is when the first live comp had at Blade Show in Georgia. We had like, there was like these like floor mats where like there was like pocket dump challenge, where you have like red and blue, and then like we just like pocket dump, and like you would just see what's in your pocket. And it was kind of lame, but like it was like Blade HQ's trying a way to make interactive. But like we like put like tape over it, and we're like, flipping challenge, and then we would like back and forth, and then we would like flip until the next person like fails. But it was kind of just like more for show. Like it wasn't really like actual competitions.
It was like,
And
was it like demoing the knives a little bit?
more it was more so a demo, but like,
Or just fun?
yeah, because it really didn't, they tell you like, if someone's being very conservative, like you can flip forever without dropping it, like, so it's not a very true, like, it's not a very real way to like go versus, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Got it. So we talked a bit about your outdoor vids. I have that question on here. Do you just see a place and you're like, that's it? Who films you? Do you just go on your own? I mean, are they solo missions, or are you like
most of
taking
them are
your
solo.
wife with you? And you're like, because my wife, if I go on a trip with my wife, I'm always like, okay, you got to film me a couple. My wife's gotten kind of good at like filming me at times. So, but
My
she's
wife.
always like, okay, one more time, and that's it.
Mhm. I've definitely been through that path. I think I've exhausted my resources when it comes to my wife's participation levels. I think early on she was all for it. She recorded the video where I dropped the 42 in the river. Like, that's her recording.
Okay.
And it's funny because if you watch the clip, like I stopped the song, and you can hear the called it. Be like, but she has been very supportive throughout the years, I think. And I think now that I've exhausted that, and like I can't now, like when we go on like hikes and stuff, it's very much me and her time, not so much flipping time or trying to make a video time. But back then it was I would say a mix of both. I think a lot of the times it was solo missions though. A lot of times it's solo missions where I would just set up a tripod, find a spot, trying to find a nice unobstructed background.
Right. Where you could
Which
actually
is,
see things.
yes, exactly. So that's the beauty of the forum. Like, Balisongtricks was a forum that came after Flipping Arena, and it was a website that was dedicated for hardcore flipping, where there was like hosted competitions. There was a chat room. There was like basically the competitions were different than Flipping Arena, because Flipping Arena, you would come in, you would vote, but you didn't have to comment. You just vote. BT, the big thing with BT was like, okay, you have to, we're doing competitions, but if you vote, you have to comment why you voted this, and that is the only way that that vote is going to count. So if you come in, you vote, and you leave, that vote doesn't count. It's only the people who commented that got the vote acknowledged. So it was kind of like an extra step. You have to justify why you voted for that person, basically.
Okay.
So
have you seen this competition that's going on with the makers competition?
I think I've seen it. So basically nowadays, I'm really out of touch with the community.
Yeah.
I am. So the stuff that's happening within the community, the new knives that are coming out, I've kind of disconnected myself, and I kind of, not that I'm bored with it, but I'm very much out of the community when it comes to stuff like that. But
okay, there's other things in life.
Exactly. But I have seen the makers comp. So I have seen that.
That's cool. So yeah, that kind of leads into my next question of what your other hobbies are. And you got into Kendama. Maybe there was something else in between, I don't know. But and I tried Kendama, and it ain't happening. Somebody sent me one as a joke, as a birthday, not as a joke, but as a birthday gift. They thought, oh, he's flipping Balisongs. They sent me a Kendama, but there was no like letter or anything with it. It was just like an Amazon package. So I had no idea for like a year who it came from. Then finally, my friend just one day is like, did you get that gift I sent you? And I was like, you sent me Kendama. And it's hard. I've only gotten it to land inside the cup like a couple times. You know, it's really difficult.
I think like many skill toys, the learning curve initially is pretty difficult for sure. I think learning the basics and going through the cups and learning what the game is about, because it's just like flipping, where it's like you have twirls, you have chaplains, you have ladders. I think the same thing with Kendama, where you have, you know, cups, you have spikes, you have, you know, whirlwinds, you have string tricks. It's like all these different facets, and kind of learning the general vibe of Kendama and how the general physics of it works is kind of a big learning curve. But I instantly got hooked. Honestly, it took a good year for me to be good, like for an average person. And then once I unlocked, and basically it came to getting a good one. When I got a good one, I was like, okay, yeah.
That's part of my question too, is, you know, I have that on here, like how some Balisongs are lighter or heavier, and how, you know, because I know nothing about Kendama. Is it the same thing where like really like
100%.
those, like
those
certain makers make better ones?
A lot. There is a handmade market in Kendama where you have like people, like they're made by a person in house, but it's not as much as like the China made ones. The China made ones are just like, it's not like a Balisong, which it lasts you like 10 years. A Kendama might last you a month if you play it every day. It's a consumable, so it's the market for cheaper, good, like, you know, good quality cheap ones, right? Like that's what people want, because you go through so much that
how does it get beat up? What do you mean? Like it'll chip, the wood will chip?
Oh yeah. Like, so like eventually the spike will get blunt, the paint will chip.
Damn.
See how, yeah, so like they eventually the cups will start to chip and stuff will start to blunt. Yeah, so they're consumable. So especially if you're grinding like tricks like 4 or 5 hours a day, like I have I get them for free now. So when they send them to me basically, and I just give my old ones away whenever someone's like interested in it. I'm just like, oh, here you go. So I don't have any of my really big smashed up ones, but yeah, like you can really run to the ground. When before I was sponsored, I would just run into the ground. There were just like no paint, and then like the spike would just be completely flat. But like they're still fun. They're just the challenge. Like some tricks get easier when it gets beat up, and some tricks get harder. So like it's with the fresh Kendama, like you do certain tricks that are way easier and it's nice, but they wear in and they become seasoned, and then they
interesting.
get honed is what the word that they call it.
Got
so
it.
There's like a whole language, just like Balisong. Kendama has a language behind it, and
are they going to make
the
like
learning
a
process.
live edge Kendama soon?
Like
a spiked ball with I
have a metal one. It's tiny. It's actually
does that
really
work
difficult.
good? The metal one?
No, it's very hard. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But like, you know.
Yeah.
it's aluminum and it's very difficult, but like the size of it, like, is very important. Just like someone will look at a 51 and say it's too short, right? And you know, really they're not that long. The difference is not that much, but as a flipper, you notice it. Well,
Right.
same goes with Kendama, where like this one has like three different types of wood. So there's cherry, walnut, and maple. So all these woods have different densities and weights. So or the ability to the friction level is different. So when you're making these like stall tricks where you're like it's sitting on the bevel like this,
Right.
if it's like a beech, which is a softer hardwood, beech will stick better to another wood, which is a beech
Totally
on
makes
beech.
sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
hmm So it's the same idea where like G10 or feels better on the hands, or like it's all preference for a lot of it, but it's a rabbit hole that you can fall down like pretty quick for sure.
And is there other? Have you gone into any other sorts of? Like there's the
Hobbies?
tops that people do, where they do the tops on the platters or wild.
Yeah, so there's these other ones. It's
Oh
called
yeah.
bagleries. Yeah, so these
Yeah.
are like they're pretty. They became popular. I don't know, maybe 2016, 2017, and it's basically flipping two balls on a string between your fingers. And I was sponsored at one point, and I just kind of gave up it because there's only so much I could do, and there's so much fun. Like so, for a while I always had a pair in my pocket because whenever I couldn't flip, I would take out my bagleries.
I suck at those as much as I do kendama.
I learned like 10 tricks, and it was enough to like be like a good fidget spinner, where I
Yeah.
would just like
I
constantly
want to
go
try it
between
more.
tricks.
Like the mini nunchucks look fun too.
I have it. He gave me a set of those, and I never gotten into it. Honestly, it's just like when I discovered Kendama in, I think it was like 2016 or 2015. It slowly just started to like replace Balisong, and it was like the same dopamine rush that I would get when I landed a Balisong trick. Well, I started getting that from the Kendama, and it was almost like tricks are much harder to get at Kendama. So when you get it, it's more satisfying. So that
Okay.
rush is like
So it's like
it was way more intense for me.
better drug.
Yes. Oh yeah, exactly. Like you get addicted to the, like when you get into it, when you do the like that sound when you get it on the spike, like it's just get hooked to that slack. Anyways, I find it way more satisfying as a just as a person, as a manipulator. So that's why I kind of like took over. Like I love flipping. Flipping's very satisfying. You do some tricks, it just flows, it just feels good. But when I think I was like 8 years in or 7 years in when I discovered Kendama, and maybe I was just getting a little bit tired
Yeah.
of pushing my own boundaries and going exploring, and I went through a lot of rabbit holes when it comes to flipping, where I just dove into areas of flipping that wasn't really explored, like, or that no one really liked. Like tabletops is one of the things that I dove really deep into, and something that some people like and some people despise.
You're great at those. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's not a part of flipping that is very aesthetically pleasing, like flowy or technical, but still like a lot of the stuff that I was doing was never done before. So if you're chasing the never been dones, if you look at something that's not really explored, like tabletops was just like, I don't know, just America before it was discovered. Like it was just like obviously some people are doing stuff on the back of their hands for years. It's not like invented tabletops, but it had never been done with Balisong.
Right.
Mm.
Got it. What other hobbies do you have? You go on bike rides, exercise,
So yeah, so
you hike a bit, it sounds like, and you.
Frisbees has been a big thing for a long time for me. Like I played ultimate frisbee since I moved here. So since 2010, I've been playing ultimate frisbee. basically flat out in and out. But in 2021, so last year, there was a disc golf course that opened up, and that kind of even pushed Kendama out of the way.
Whoa.
Disc golf became a big hobby of mine. So now I would even say that I think about, because I have ADHD, I have one-track mind, I have just like, whatever I'm into like, fucking knees deep into it, right? So now that slot has like in my brain, which is like whenever I'm not doing whatever I'll still be doing, that's where my mind goes. I goes to disc golf. That's where my mind goes now. Yeah. So,
but do you carry a Balisong and a Kendama in your pocket when you go onto
the disc golf course? No, not even. No, because there's no time. Like all I would do would be distracting for myself, right? Like I don't even carry my phone when I play, because it's another distraction, right? Like I just want to play, and I want to. The thing with disc golf is that it ticks a lot of the boxes. So yeah, it's outdoors, bang. It allows me to disconnect from everything, bang. Chilling, playing with friends, bang. And it's like, and it's technical and very like, you can play it very leisurely, or you can fucking try to deep dive into like disc theory and like plastics and.
So like, how many discs do you have?
I carry in my bag, I have 16 discs that I carry in my bag, and I have like
I love it.
Like 10 more on the shelf there that I like cycle through, and depending on because plastics change like rigidity and texture with the temperature. So I have like a summer bag and I have a winter bag.
So is there a lucky disc? Like if you lost it, you'd go back with that guy like you did with the diver to get the ball?
Oh, I would. I hate losing discs, and our course that I play on is very forgiving. It has no like water holes, has no big like bushy areas. So like, like if I have a lot of discs, and I'm not accustomed to losing them. Apparently, it's a big deal if you play disc golf in the mainland, or like, where there's a lot of water courses, you lose discs quite regularly. And I'm not accustomed to that. I have never lost a disc before. So like, if I were to ever lose a disc, I'm very OCD when it comes to just knowing where all my shit is and like just being aware. So luckily I haven't lost one, but yes, I have discs where like I aced. So ace is like, or like it's called a hole in one. Right. Basically, okay. Right? So you tee off and you throw it in. I have 2 discs where I aced, and if I were to lose any of those 2, it would be pretty shitty, yeah.
And do you feel that the Kendama and Balisong is kind of tied in to helping you with that or is it just the way your mind works, or do you feel there's some skill level that helps in that?
I think with disc golf, me having played ultimate frisbee for 10 years before that definitely helped. Because I went from
so wait, ultimate frisbee is like football with frisbee, right?
Kind of like, it's like soccer, football, a few other things, but it plays on a full field, yeah. And it's like one team versus the next, and then you can't run with a frisbee. You can only throw to the person, and then you catch it and you stop.
Right, but disc golf is like golf.
Exactly, except you throw a disc in a bucket, which is like a big basket.
I've played it before, but yeah, not ultimate frisbee, but I've played disc golf.
So ultimate frisbee is like it's a very like demanding sport. A lot of running, and a lot of passing and throwing, catching, and like you have different positions where you're more of a cutter, we call it. So you more like a running back, which are more like quarterbacks, right? So you have people who catch and people who throw, basically. And I slowly went from being a catcher to a thrower. So I had a lot of experience with throwing big, deep bombs and being accurate. And so like that helped me out with disc golf. But my ability to focus on muscle memory and like, all right, like learning the form and learning the technique, right? There's a pull through, there's a thing, you got to do this, you got to do that with the wrist, like my ability, and that helped me with Kendama. So like when I started Kendama, I had been a manipulator my whole life, like, you know, juggling when I was a kid to play, you know, fingerboards and all these things I did growing up. I knew that I just need to learn the technique. And once I learned, then it's just practice, and then it's just muscle memory, and then you just do what feels natural on the course. So it's just like every other manipulating ability that I've had. It's just figuring out the muscle memory, and then practice, and then success.
Perfect. Yeah. Hopefully you can still hear me. I got a call in the middle of that. Thought I silenced my phone, but apparently
No, I got you.
calls still come through, but sometimes it cuts out my audio. I just want to make sure. So do you still find time to flip? Do you still do it? Do you pick up the Balisong still sometimes?
So I have a unfinished basement, which I love. It's my like I love having an unfinished basement because I can just come down here, do projects, flip knives. There's nothing to break. It's just like fucking. So my knives are confined to the basement because I'm very destructive with them. Right, like in the laminate flooring upstairs. So basically, my knives stay in the basement until like I only flip when I come to the basement. In the summertime, sure, like they're outside. If I go for a sesh anywhere, sure, I'll bring my kendamas, but I'll always have a knife for sure. Yeah, still
Okay.
always make sure that I bring a balisong. For one, it's I need a knife on me all the time. But if I want to make a flipping video, sure. But it's definitely it's not my when I come to a spot and I want to make a video now, I think kendama and not knives.
Do you make
So
videos for Ultimate Frisbee or disc?
disc golf, no, I definitely not. I have some ultimate videos, but it's more so just like GoPro on the side, and it's just like kind of more so recording the whole game so that we can kind of go through plays and see what we done. And but not as far as like content goes, no, not really.
And when was your last kendama content?
My kendama, like I have a different account, right? Like I
I
think
know.
you
I
started
yeah.
following, yeah. So I basically try to make content quasi regularly because now I actually have an active sponsor. Like to say that I'm still sponsored by BRS is probably not accurate. Like sure, I'm part of like the BRS crew, which is what like
The
what we
history.
call yeah. So it's like there's a group chat with all like the BRS crew and like basically just like people who like all the sponsored flippers are there as well. But there's a few other names that are just like OGs that are like grandfather. Like that's what I think of me in my sponsorship with BRS is that I was like grandfathered in. I was
Right.
never just like never like won a competition or never did anything that was very significant where the point where like BRS was like, here you go, here's a sponsorship. No, it was just like Ed was just like, hey, do you want to like get some swag and rep the brand? I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. And it was never really a signed contract. It was just like, I think they did come out with a contract once. And back then I was like already slipped off the scene. And I was just like, I can't really, like, I can't, you know, commit to something Balisong related anymore because it doesn't do it for me as much as Kendama. And that was like 2019, 2018 where I was like started to like fully dive into Kendama and I like the
Yeah,
Kendama sponsorship.
your last Balisong content, if I'm correct, was like a year ago.
So yeah, like I think during that pandemic I like was bored and during the first lockdown I think I posted a couple of videos. But before that, yeah, like if you look at even like before those, the content was very scarce. Like I posted maybe some like throwback Thursdays or like it was a lot of old content being rehashed because I was trying to just like keep the content coming. But I was up to 14K followers at one point, and like I had been so inactive in the past 3 years that have just like bled followers like
Right.
since basically. But it's because of that. Like I started posting some Kendama content to my Nardath account, and then I noticed that a lot of people wasn't really into that, so I just stopped posting Kendama content to Nardath, and then I started a new account, and built that one up from scratch, and I think I'm at 16 now. It's 1.6
Yeah.
thousand.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I just found you. I wasn't even part of Instagram following anything related to Balisongs. For me, it was all YouTube. Even when I started my YouTube channel where I review knives and a lot of pocket knives is how I started, and Balisongs. I wasn't even on social media or on Instagram, and then I was like, well, I should start an Instagram account, after. So I was watching a lot of YouTube stuff, and that's how I found you.
Yeah, like that's what a lot of people ask me, like, like if you're still involved in the community, and I'm like I can't say that I'm active anymore, but like anyone who looks at content on YouTube, if you dive into Balisong content on YouTube, you're eventually gonna find my channel somehow.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's bound to happen, because I have like I think it's like over 800 videos on YouTube.
Yeah, you have it goes back 12 years. I was amazed. I was like 12 freaking years. I mean, that's super impressive and awesome.
Yeah, and like in the back of my head, like it's, to me back then it was just put, like, YouTube was just like I was never like trying to like become YouTube famous. Like it was always just like posting content, and it's just like more so to post content on YouTube so I could post it on Flip Arena, right? Like, back then you couldn't post directly on the website. You had to like post a link, right?
Got it. Yeah. Where do you see the Balisong community and headed, the growth of it? Do you think it's going to keep growing? Do you see a difference now?
Oh, yes. Oh, hell yeah. Like the community is quite different. I think back then we had a niche community where it was like, we had like a few dozen people, like at tops, maybe 100, like at, active members at once, to just having like thousands of people, like, so.
And do you like that, or do you feel like sometimes like people are encroaching on something that was cool to you, and now or do you feel that the community is respecting the work you did or the people who came before? Because somebody who's maybe like me, I'm older, so I can show respect easier, where a lot of younger kids, they think they know it all. They're like the best fucking flippers. They don't give a shit about anybody else because they're 15 years old and they can flip really fucking good, but they don't know how to be human. So
we call it the flipper etiquette, and I think that's like it. I think that goes with the demographic, where it's like you got to know who you're talking to. But like when I started, I was still very young. Like I was still like, in my early 20s. So I still had a good connection when it comes to the youth. Like I knew what was, like, I don't want to say cool because that sounds like but like back then, like I still felt like I could connect with the youth. So when I was in my early 20s and I was connecting with flippers, some of them were my age, some of them were older, some of them were younger, but there was a lot of them that are younger, and you can see it. Like you had Joe or Jeff, right? Like when he started, he was like 15, 16, and we were chatting, and it was he was passionate enough. It was still like good conversations being had with between me and the youth, and I feel like over the years, maybe that the generational gap has gotten bigger and bigger, and maybe, right, like different ideologies, especially now where I've like, that's like, you're talking, like you said, 12 years between now and when I started. Those are two different communities. Very, very, there's a, and now where I attribute it to is like the whole trainer and then live light. Like there's just like this divide where it's like in the community where it's like people who strictly flip live blade, and then people who flip trainers, or I even put them on that side, flippers who flip live and trainers, right? Like in the same category, where it's like, because when I started, when you flipped the trainer, you were like, it was basically shunned. Like, it was basically like, why are you even posting this on YouTube? Like, this is training footage. Wait, like put it in the training section, right? Like,
Right.
there was a thread in the Flipper annual where it was like training sessions, right? Like, so you would post a video of you training. So if you post trainer content there, it'd be a bit more acceptable. But if you're posting a competition footage with a trainer, you'd be like DQ'd, like, get out of here, So I think there has been a shift in the community where trainers have become a bit more acceptable when it comes to just like content wise and all that stuff. And I think that's a positive change, because it really it makes it more inclusive for everyone who can't get a live blade, or like when I started flipping, I was a rock climber, and I couldn't do both. Like, I had to stop rock climbing because flipping would just chop up my fingers, and I couldn't, like, if you know anything about rock climbing, you know that it's just like about friction on the rock, right? So if there's like loose pieces of skin, you're bleeding all over. So I basically just stopped rock climbing because Balisongs took over like my like hobby time. So like there is a place for trainers, and I think that's where the shift the community has gone more towards nowadays, and I think that's fine. And I don't think that contributed to me leaving. I don't think that's why I left the community. I think it's more so my addiction to something else, right? Like, I think if I was still addicted to flipping, I think I would just deal with how the community is now, and like, not like deal, but like, I'd be a bit more open to that sort of content.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of great younger flippers that are actually really respectful and really, really great. I think a lot of them joke around too. So, and it's also really easy to hide behind a screen nowadays and just comment and like act like you know what you're doing. And then the other person on the other end has no idea how old you are or what your history is or anything. So it's really easy for things to get all skewed up. But I can see
Yes, for sure.
hanging out with a lot of doing live things and hanging out with a lot of different younger flippers and older flippers as well. It really boils down to the person, in my opinion. I think there's just a lot more of them probably nowadays, so it's a lot easier to have various opinions.
Oh, for sure. I think like trying to word it so it doesn't sound like a douchebag here, but I do love the enthusiasm that Balisong has, like the community has grown, and it's hard to just say like, what the community is. Like, before, it was very easy to be like, oh, that's where the community is, like Flipping Arena, like that's where the community was. Now it's like there's a Facebook community, there's an Instagram community, there's a Reddit community, and I kind of burned the Reddit bridge. Gotta, like, because I don't know, I it's really funny. I don't know if you're aware of me and Reddit. Like, have you?
I was on Reddit, but I left. It was there was too much toxicity and weird stuff, so I just left. I didn't. I once in a while go on there and look around, but I left a couple posts and people were like kind of oddly rude, and I was like, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here for that. Like, if people are rude to me or that's where I just like, all right, we're done.
Reddit. I've always been on Reddit, like, for the longest time. Back when I had a desktop, and like, there's a part of my life where desktops or computers or like laptops were like, I had my phone, so I just used my phone for everything. But Reddit has always been like a desktop platform where I would just go on a website and I can just browse, and there's like memes and information, like good and bad, whatever. So I always had Reddit kind of in the back of my head. So when I got my recent job, I started working at a university. I had a computer, so I was in front of the desktop all day, but every day in front of my computer. So I found myself having more time to just browse on Reddit than I had in the past, and I found that Balisong community on Reddit, and this was, I had already basically been an active for like, I'd say a year or two. Like I had quit the community, but I had found Reddit, and Reddit community is not, it is a cesspool. It's very much everyone's opinion just smashed in your face all the time. So it can be a little much. So I partook in that community, and I just basically, I didn't really impose my OG opinions, but I just kind of poked and prod the bear a little bit, passive aggressively, and then I kind of developed a hate cult on Reddit where people just love to hate me, and I kind of just embraced that. It was okay for me. I was just trolling, and I just became a Reddit troll. Basically, is what happened. And I gave that up a while ago, but it was a few years when I first got my desk job where I was just like trolling Reddit, and it wasn't not really trolling. All I was doing was, saying basically, make your bed, right? That was a big one. Make your bed, because people would, like, kids would post flipping videos over their bed, and their bed's all shagged up, and like there's trash on the floor, and I'm just like, pick up your room, or like, this dude, just old man shit, right?
Oh man, if you
like,
start having fun, like if you have a sense of humor and you start like commenting, oh god, I could be really good at that.
Well, that's exactly it. I found it entertaining to me to just kind of
piss people off a little bit.
Yeah, and like people calling trainers knives, and I'm just like, that's not a knife. Or that's all I would say. Just, that's not a knife. That's all I have to say, to be like, people are like, it's a Balisong, and I was like, yeah, well, that's not a knife. Like a trainer is not a knife. You say, oh, I got a new Balisong, it implies a blade, right? Like and that basically when you say new Balisong, and I would just be like, new Balisong trainer. Like, you got a trainer. You didn't get a Balisong, you got a trainer. So there's a big, I think there's this big hatred of me because I just try to push the semantics of flipping onto kids, and that kind of rubbed people the wrong way, for sure.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I think that happened to me a couple times where I think I've said like, handmade instead of like, when it wasn't necessarily like fully handmade. It was more like, made on a CNC machine and then assembled, but there's still so much more handwork to something like that.
Yeah.
Wait, did you just grab another beer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait a sec, because I've been wanting one that's empty.
But yeah, we call those mid-techs. Where like, sure, they're not custom, they're not made A to Z, like, on the bench, like they're CNC'd. So when BRS made the run of DDs, so the Dirty Dozen, those were mid-techs. So they made, or no, I don't think the Dirty Dozen were mid-techs. Were they? I can't remember. But yeah, so like mid-tech is made in the CNC and assembled by a person. So they're not quite customs.
Right.
Mid-tech.
Yeah, people get really particular about things if you word them the wrong way. And I'm just like, my whole thing is I'm not here to ruffle feathers or disagree with people. It's like, I'm here to learn shit and have fun and have a good time.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's kind of a shit disturber where I'm just like,
oh yeah, I know that.
Like, I just correct. It's not as bad as correcting grammar. If you're like, I'm a French-speaking person in nature, right? So like, for me, grammar is like, when I'm online, I don't care what I write, you, your, whatever. Like, but like for me to just, and that's all it is, poking the bear. So like, and when I'm bored at work, right? So like, I never trolled YouTube. I never trolled Instagram. I only ever trolled Reddit, just because it was just like so easy. It's like low hanging fruit,
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Reddit's okay. I just kind of had a couple interactions in there where I was like, I'm not sure. I just had more Instagram. Really, also what it boils down to is I'm on Instagram more. I have more fun on Instagram. I can connect with people easier on Instagram. Reddit, I don't feel as much of a connection with people. And I started a lot of this during the pandemic. I had more free time, and it was a way to connect with people, you know. And anyway, but let's see. Not going to
Sure,
play a
dog.
show. Are there Kendama meets? Like, do you meet up with people? Are there competitions for Kendama?
So I make a lot of bridges between the Kendama community and the Balisong community. I think the Balisong community could learn a lot from the Kendama community. I think it's and there's definitely a like, I know a lot of flippers who's turned Kendama players and then Kendama players who turn flippers. I've made that bridge for so many people. Like, people just message me about Kendama, and people message me about knives, and it's like, I just, like, it's a manipulator. So like, if you're a manipulator at heart, like, you're gonna, stuff like juggling and they're just gonna attract you. You're just gonna find it cool. You're gonna want to try it. You're gonna want to do it. You're gonna want to learn it. So like, when I found Kendama, it was like, it's a no-brainer. Like, I just loved it right off the bat. But wait, what was I going with?
What was the question? Are there Kendama meets, like competitions?
So yeah, so the I have a very small local scene that I meet up with a couple guys, mostly during the summer, like at the park. So there's like maybe like a dozen local guys that I keep in touch with, and we kind of meet. But there is a lot of live competitions on the mainland, right? When I say mainland, I mean like the rest of America.
Okay.
Because I'm on an island, so the
Right.
mainland. So on the mainland, like, basically they have competitions almost every month, every week. If you go to like Europe, they're like every weekend. Like, it's just they're everywhere. There is small low-key comps that happen all over the place. So there's different formats. So there's like can games, which is like kind of like horse, like, where if I do a trick, you have 2 tries to do it, and you have to match, or, you know, basically.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's a bunch of different formats. There's freestyle, which is like kind of like freestyle with us, where there's judges, and then there's open, which is like, there's like a trick list, and then they draw a trick, and then you have to do it. It's way more defined when I find Kendama. Like, everything has a name, everything has like a purpose. Like, in flipping, there's a lot of this nuance, like maneuvers, I call them, where there's no name for it. Like, because just because you flip your knife this way or that way, like, there's like, you can call it something, but it might not need a name, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you know,
Right.
it's just a small maneuver that gets you from point A to point B. And if you want to call it something, sure, but like, I'm not a fan of naming flipping tricks, because a lot of it should be just like a flow sport. Sure, you have big key tricks like twirls, or, you know, behind the 8 ball, or chaplains, but the in-betweens doesn't need a name. It's just
Right.
flowing freestyle.
Where
between
Kendama has those names?
Kendama has, like, basically, sure, there's like flowy tricks with Kendamas that you might have some, like a small maneuver that there's no name for it, but a lot of the tricks you'd be like, oh, he's doing a bird to, you know, bird turn to this to that. Like, you can like put a name to every single thing. And one of the things is like rotation numbers. Well, you have this thing in Kendama. It's like you do 1, 2, 3. It's like pyramid tricks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. So in flipping, I made a couple of videos where it was like Kendama Balisong, like cross edits, where I have like both.
Right.
And my Kendama has kind of bled into my knife abilities, where I'm doing like 1, 2, 3 rotations with knives, and that wasn't a thing before. And I thought about this earlier, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, it's either a basic aerial or a power aerial. Like, you know, like, you never say, oh, I did like a 3.5 rotation, you know, power aerial, right? But that's what happens. The knife flips 3.5 times. But like, the difference between a 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, you might not feel it when you're doing the trick. You're just fucking, and then you're just kind of like, and then so like, but I found myself doing tricks like that, and after I had Kendama, where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like a 0 rotation, a 1 rotation, a 2 rotation, a 3 rotation, and that shows you how good you are at controlling your aerials. You know, so like
Right.
it definitely, my Kendama skills like bled back and forth between knife and Kendama for sure.
Is there a Kendama master that you're just like, that guy is so damn good?
There's a lot. Like, I'm sponsored, but I would do not consider myself pro on by any stretch. By any stretch. There's pro guys out there that are incredible. Incredible. There's I can't even, to name a few, I would, you know, like, it would mean nothing to you, but like there's like Bonzatron, Alex Mitchell, you know, Rod Dama. There's probably like 4 or 5 dozen that I can name if you just let me. I won't.
And
do
the
it
Kendama community is larger for you,
Yeah,
for sure.
it is much bigger. It's much bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what?
There's much bigger. There's much live. There's much more live comms. There's much more content. There's much more product. It's a big industry for sure. It's a bigger industry because
And
it's
do you
much
think
more
that has to
accessible.
do with like that it's not a weapon, considered a
Oh,
weapon?
100%.
Yeah.
There's like a.
It's a
and
toy to people.
It's 100% a toy, and like, Balisong. As much as I love Balisong, I realized at one point that I was like, Balisong's not going anywhere. There's like a cap that Balisong will.
Do you
will
still
reach.
feel that way?
Yes, yes. I don't think Balisong, especially for me as a Canadian, Balisongs will never be. That's why I was like, Balisongs will never be a career. Like,
To me, I always relate it to skateboarding. The way skateboarding was like a crime when we were younger. We'd get busted for skateboarding. You couldn't bring your skateboard to school. You couldn't skateboard on the sidewalks. You couldn't do, you know, we were always getting in trouble for skateboarding. Now they build skate parks right next door to a school. It's an after-school activity. They give you helmets and pads, and the parents take you to the skate park because they don't want you in the house. You know, I don't know if it'll get like
I'm looking at my skateboard right now.
I don't know if we'll get like that because it's a knife. But I always, when I have parents come into the shop and they're like, "Oh, my kid is getting into knives," I always try and relate it to that, to explain like your kid's not getting into like knives and violence. They're fidgety and they want something to play with, you know.
Yeah, I think Canada really puts the cap on that for me. I'd have to move to somewhere where it's more accessible. But
here it's state to state. There, it's like the whole country. You can't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's considered a prohibited weapon, so it's as illegal as an automatic submachine gun. It's the same level.
Can you have it in your home, or you just can't?
No, no, it's a prohibited weapon. Period. Like, can't even own it. Can't even put a permit for it. No, it's same level as nunchucks and brass knuckles. Same idea.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite, to move on here? Because we're an hour and 23 minutes. What is your favorite clip of yourself flipping a Balisong or a Kendama? Do you have like one that you're like, that trick, I finally nailed it, and to you that is your like, you worked so damn hard on it and you finally nailed it? Because we all know that feeling.
I put in a trick last year. So Crom Kendama is not the company I'm sponsored by, but they make Kendamas, and they have a trick of the year competition. And I'll link it to you if you want. But I posted one earlier this week. It was like a jester trick. So like, you know, like a hacky sack style trick.
Right.
And I go from like, I do this. So like, it's called a handle style. So like, basically it just dangles on this little edge here. So I go like this, and then I hacky sack, and then I get the ball back onto like that. So
yeah, I think I saw that. It's like, is that like in your top 3 videos?
Reels, yeah.
Right now?
On that account, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah, probably, yeah.
Link it to me and I'll post it on my story or something so people know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so that was, it was basically one of my dream tricks when I was falling in a hole of like jester tricks. But as far as knives, I think it's really hard because I have so much content. Like I can't really think about one that's like really good. I think my favorite video that I made was the fadeaway video. If you go on YouTube and you look up fadeaway Nardath, and it's just like a backyard video, and I do this like double like gesture trick. So I do like a gesture with my left and a gesture with my right, and it's just like it I had tried for so long
I'm
to
writing
do it,
this
and I
down.
got it.
I feel like I've probably seen it, but I'm gonna write it down. Fade
There's
away.
there's a lot of those type videos where I'm just like doing stuff that I've just like it's never been done, and that's what excites me. And like I think that comes from my rock climbing. So rock climbing, there's this thing called first ascents, where it's like you see a problem on a rock, and like it's the first time you like it's been done, and like the fact that it's never been done, like that's what makes it like notorious. That's what makes it cool. And I think that's what I was a lot of the times, like even for Kendama, where like there's people that are like significantly better than me at Kendama, or like just like fucking mind-blowingly better than me. But I don't by rights consider myself like one of the best in the world. I don't like but there's certain tricks that I've never been done that I've been doing, and that's what I like strive to find is NBDs like never
Yeah,
been done.
into the depths. You're an innovator
Mm-hmm.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's inspiring and cool. Is there a trick you're working on right now for either Kendama or Balisong or both?
It's funny because I'm always working on something, but I don't work on it unless I'm playing. Like like today, like Monday when I set up, like I always like play on my breaks. I set up my phone, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. And then by the end of the break, I had figured out a trick, and I just did it. Right, like uh, there's a thing called a box. So in flipping, right, or in any like it comes from skateboarding. So I can't remember what skateboarder said this before, but like someone said that Rodney Mullen is so good at skateboarding that he's in this window, right, where if he can imagine something, he can do it.
Mm.
Right. The problem with is imagining it. Right.
Mm.
So you're in your window of like skill abilities where like anything is possible as long as I can think about it. And that's where I was with flipping. Was I was in my window for a long time where I was like, okay, my capabilities, I know what I can do, and I know that anything is possible. It's just a matter of figuring out. Like, that's what makes me thrive, is to figure out just NBDs, like never been done. Like, what's not been done.
Okay, this brings on a question. So are there flippers that you see now, like Joff or whoever, that are doing things where you're like, holy shit, I didn't think of that. That's really cool to see that happening, and that you see the sport or the hobby evolving?
So there's a couple of, like where the trend of flipping has gone to has been very techie, flowy, fast like stuff, right?
Lots of finger stuff.
Yes, a lot of like and when I say twirling, and when I started flipping, anything that was just finger related is called twirling. Like literally like the full twirl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so anything that was just finger, like just like very you could get it in like one shot, like it's just be like doing this. That's called twirling. So like nowadays it's just fancy twirls. Like that's all it is. Like and it's mind blowing the stuff that they're doing, because like I remember struggling with like the short stops and struggling with like ladders, and like
Oh yeah,
bars are doing like reverse infinity ladders, and I'm just like 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 what is this stuff, right? Like it's amazing to see now. And now the problem is I'm kind of like out of the community, and I'm out of like so like I browse through. I have multiple Instagram accounts, so I'll browse between, because I have like my Nardath, which is all of the knife content, and I have Kendama, which is all the Kendama content, right? Like so I'll go between the two, and I find myself more in the Kendama. So like every now and again I'll like, obviously I go to the knife ones quite often, but a lot of there's nothing that stands out to me, right? Like there's a lot of really fucking good flippers out there now, but they all kind of, like one of the flippers that comes to mind when I'm talking about this is Red Edge, right? Like his content just breaks out from what is the standard now, and I think that's what attracts me in a flipper.
He's great. He's like my
someone,
second interview, if you notice.
oh yeah, like so, like I did go back and watch a couple just.
I really enjoy his flipping a lot. Yeah, I really do.
He is. It's just out of the box, and I think the whole aerialist genre has kind of died down. Like Lucy, or Ed from BRS, like he was a straight up aerialist. Like, you know, like he didn't do twirls. Like, you know, like he might have done like one double rollout and then go to like an XO or do like a meat, like a grinder. Like it wasn't about fancy twirls, right? Like, so I find that for me, aerials has always been what I liked the most about flipping, was manipulating in the air. So bajillion little finger twirls, sure, it's great, and like they've gone so deep in it that I'm definitely lost when it comes to the new tech that's coming out. So
you're like an old El Camino. And we're looking at like maybe like some sort of modern, like, you know, Lamborghini or something, you know, or
really, and oh yeah, for sure, and like and I'm so out of it now that like someone be like, oh, do a double giraffe cat, you know, fucking.
I think it's something in our nature. I mean, people comment how I like aerials a lot. I just do. I like, if you look at my clips, I'm always doing aerials, but I really strive to be better at my finger stuff. I don't know if it's just my age or whatever. And I learn a lot from people trying to get better at them, practice, you know. I'm only as good as I am. I haven't been flipping that long, but I enjoy doing aerials, Van Goghs, and just different kinds of things. And so when I see those always look fun to me. And somebody like Red Edge, who's doing it with a more modern touch, where it has like a matrixy feel, where he makes it feel like it's like a video game. I kind of feel that. I think that's pretty cool.
So if you like Red Edge, do you know his name is Son of the Bomb?
Oh,
so
yeah, I might follow him.
So he's like me, where he was started like early on, but now he's like quit flipping basically. But he was like Red Edge before Red Edge was
Red Edge.
He was making power aerial combos.
Oh, I lost your, maybe called me. We both got a call at the same time. I can't hear you now. Oh, your video cut off. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Turn off your microphone on and off once.
Okay.
Oh yeah, now you're back.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, that's that cutoff thing that I always worry about. And you know what? It's the same damn person calling me over and over.
Uh-oh.
Well, they've called twice. He hasn't called over and over, but.
Right on. But that's my cue, basically. That's my wife calling me that she's on her way home. So.
All right, let's move through a couple of these here, because this is actually turning in. Let me just wrap it up, and we'll do a few Q&As. Trickster, we're makers or flippers you want to give a shout out to or anything like that? I mean, we kind of went over that. You don't need to get into all that. Probably there's you probably know so many people in the flipping community and the kendama. I mean, your history is huge, dude. It's.
I think I've always been like. I think that's the biggest complaint people had about me is like my BRS like fanboy type of thing. But like this, because I was with BRS like when it started, and like back when BRS there was nothing else, like Squid didn't exist, like any of those. Sure, there was Microtech and Benchmade or Bradley, but like they weren't designing flippers, right? Like, so for me, like BRS was always like my go-to company for sure. But as far as makers, like I was never big into customs. I've always been a production flipper, basically, right? Just buy them so I can flip them and destroy them, right? So I don't want to buy like a $2,000 knife so I can just destroy it. Right? You mean?
Um, Speaking of that, your wife just called. Does your family like that you spend so much time doing these fidget? That is actually like my last question on here. Does your family like that you do this? Do they?
Uh,
Does she get jealous of it? My wife is always like, "Oh, I wish you would just spend time with me." She doesn't mean
mm,
it in a horribly mean way, but I do put a lot of time into it. And do you get that too?
I do. I definitely get that. I think my wife's been very patient with me. Like I've been making content for YouTube for like, for many years. And I think early on she had a lot more, she was definitely a bit more helpful when it comes to that stuff. I think now it's a bit more, and now like I have like two jobs, two dogs, a kid, a house. Like there's always something to do. And I think you can understand that. Like there's just always something better I can do than spend time making content. You know what I mean? So a lot of times now, like real life comes in the way, right? Like we're working on our shed, we're working on this, we're replacing the doors here, I got to do this, got to do that. There's always something to do, right? So it's not, I'm always like, like fighting for time, basically.
But one thing, they probably understand that that makes you happy. I mean, that's one thing I can always
Mm,
see in your clips, and what inspired me to watch you. I always feel like when I was watching your clips, like that you were always really enjoying yourself. And to me,
mm,
so much of this hobby and sport, or whatever people want to call it, is so personal. Like it's just you. We just sit here in our living rooms or backyards or whatever, flipping knives, and you always seemed really happy doing that, and it came through in your videos. And I'm sure that your wife must uh, be glad that at least you're happy.
and that's the thing too. Like uh, I go through phases. So now like I said, disc golf has come up in my life, and she understands that disc golf is what I want to do, like with my time. So she lets me do that. But then it's like Kendama, and like it really has feel like it's like put on the back burner, right? Like Kendama, in my mind, Kendama is now second. Like Balisong was always first. And then when Kendama came around, Kendama was first, and now disc golf is first. And like
do,
I watch content, I go play. That's what takes up my time now. So
do you ever search for the thing because I do this with my wife? I'm like, just if we could find that thing that we both really vibe on,
mm,
wouldn't that be cool?
she likes disc golf.
Okay, that's
She'll
awesome.
watch disc golf because she plays ultimate.
Because
I
what?
got her. She plays ultimate frisbee.
Oh, okay.
So ultimate frisbee, me and my wife play, like we play on the same team.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We play on the men's team. I play, she plays on the women's team. Like we're both very big into ultimate. So like so she knows how to throw a frisbee. So like, she kind of like gravitates towards disc golf more than anything I've ever done. So like that's the one thing but I play more than her because I work right next to the course. So I go play during my lunch breaks. I go play after work. So she gets jealous that cause she wants to play with me, but she doesn't have as much time as I do. So
Right.
that there's that jealousy there, but like ultimately it's like when we have time, we go play for sure.
Right. Let's
Mm.
take some Q&A from our viewers. Anybody out there want to ask anything that we covered a lot, and I want to say I really honestly appreciate you taking the time to do this. I think I already told you how much you inspired me, and it's cool that you would take the time to do this interview. For me, like I have a list of people, and when I saw you come on, I was like, I want to get done. I was like right away. So I was like on it. I wanted to get you on here, and I'm genuinely stoked to have this conversation with you.
Oh, I had a great time. Honestly, like it just felt like we were just having chat and having a beer and enjoying our company. So like it was very enjoyable. I'm glad like you got me in. Like I've been so out of the community. Like I tried to like a little bit like get the vibe that like watch a bit of your content, watch a bit of your like your live streams and see what you're about. And like you seem like you're very very passionate. It happens a lot with the Balisongs, right? Like people come in and they're very passionate right off the bat, and they're just like Balisong, Balisong, Balisong. So like cool to see people that are a bit more in my age group that are really passionate about it. It's like, you know, it's not that they don't exist, but they're not as common as the normal, like nowadays, you know?
Yeah, I was busy with so many other things earlier on. It's like now, like the pandemic gave me a moment to just like think, and then like knives happened and I got really like, and then I started learning a few tricks and it just, you know, it just happened just like for anybody. All right, let's see here.
Tumbles. Oh yeah, so yeah, oh, I call it the rabbit hole. And nowadays it's so easy because internet is like, when I joined, you look up Balisongs on YouTube, it'd be only like a couple of videos that come up, right? Like you're like, sure, you could dive down a little bit, but it would never really bring you like. It took me a while to find Flipping Arena. When I started, it took me like 4 or 5 months before that, like me posting a video and then me finding Flipping Arena like happened, right? So it's really cool to see like the progression that has happened with the community, and it's like it's such a different vibe from then to now. Like it's not even the same like ball game. It's not even like, so it's so I just feel glad that people like you will listen to people like me because you're very passionate. You're as passionate as I was when I started.
Right.
So it's cool to see like people coming up and like being very passionate, and then like, you know, for me where it's kind of like on the back burner, it's like 2-3 back burners away, you know, like Balisong is like 3 hobbies away, you know what I mean? But like,
well, I can respect that. That's cool. That's great, man. So somebody's asking, why did you leave Balisong? We kind of covered that. He got into other things. What's your favorite flipping knives that you don't own? Is there a knife that you would really like?
That's a good one. I mean, it's hard because I'm biased towards BRS. The Thai bones that came out, the Thai bones was like, oh, I want that.
Wouldn't you like a JK, like Orca or something like that?
Well, see, like JK is what came up in my mind. When I think custom and I'm like, I don't know what I want. If I were to pick one custom, it'd be a JK for sure. Yeah.
And have you tried like a Kraken or something like that?
No, because Krakens were like the only time I was able to try stuff was in 2016. So like, you know, like
the Krakens are great. Lucas is making great stuff. I mean, he has the Tsunami, which is his high end, but as far as like an affordable flipper, it's made of aluminum, but like it's the balance and the weight and the design behind it. Lucas and the whole Squid crew does a great job. You know,
I have a Squid V0.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I flip at work because I work at a university. So like I have so basically working at a university, like I work, like I live in Canada, but if I were to get caught at a university with a like prohibited weapon, it'd like career ender. So like I just don't carry a Balisong at work. So but I have a trainer that's like a follower gave to me. Like he like dared me. So like, do you ever hear of Bally Dares?
No. Oh, audio's gone again. Maybe he'll be back. Let's see here. Spinning in circles. Valley Dares. Oh, we lost him. Ah, first time ever. Ah. All right. What did he do in the Navy? And what does he think of the 4X series? Let's see if we can get him back here. Are you there, Nardath? I don't want to have to end this. Right, we were so close to the end. Are you there? Nardath, come back to us. I don't want to have to save this without he had to pick up a call. Yeah, probably. Let's see if he comes right back. Nardath, are you there? Nardath, where did you go? Oh, come on. Hop back on here, buddy. I wish you could search somebody and invite them that wasn't watching. Oh, let's see. What's going on there? Oh, there we go. All right. Thank God I didn't have to save that and start as part 2.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, good, because I don't want to have to do that. It's annoying. But
Yeah.
let's quickly. What did you do in the Navy?
I'm a marine technician, so I'm a part of the engineering department. So I'm a operator, basically, marine engineering operator. So we don't like, it's basically, if you kind of know what an operator is, I just make, like, I don't really fix machinery. I just operate it and maintain it. Okay. So that's what my trade is in the military. Yeah.
What do you think?
But now I don't work on ship. I work at a reserve unit. So we do land training. So it's not really part of my trade, but now it's a different trade when we're like at a reserve land unit. But like, we train people and we just, I basically, I'm a halfway point between people coming from civilians and then turning into like full-time military members. So.
Got it. What do you think of the 4X series?
The 4X series. The 4X series were a pinnacle when I started, right? Like they were the standard classic butterfly knife, but now they've been outdated and they're overpriced for sure, and they're overhyped. Like I do like to flip my knife. The 42 I have, the one I have is like it's a classic, but it's just there's better out there now. So.
Somebody's asking you to do a thumb chaplain, but I know they're joking because I do a thumb chaplain and they were teasing, not teasing, but like they like my thumb chaplains. There you go.
I prefer doing reverse, if you know what, like, because that's, no, that would be, yeah, that's reverse. What was it? Yeah, it's reverse direction. You think about it, like this is regular chaplain.
Yeah.
And then I prefer to do the reverse one, so it's like this.
Right, that's what I do.
Yeah, there's two different ones, but I prefer reverse.
Well, cool, man. I think we'll just wrap it up here. I super appreciate you, man. You're awesome and an inspiration, and I hope someday to make it up to your way, and I'll be hitting you up to like have a beer or something like that. Because just your clips, and I've always wanted to travel up into that area there, and I have been close, but not up there in those kind of islands area. I've been to Toronto, I've been to Niagara Falls, and different.
What I call Newfoundland is like the Ireland of Canada.
Right.
It's very much that. Yeah.
I have this weird fantasy of like retiring up in that kind of region up there, but maybe I'll just convince.
Yeah, man. Just like I tell people, oh, your audio, I can't hear. Oh, I can hear you now. Okay, so yeah, like that's why I tell people, like, sure.
Yeah, they were just somebody was calling again.
People look up how much flights are, and they're just like, yeah, maybe not. It happens every time. They're like, oh, I'll come visit you. I'm like, yeah, sure, come visit me. And then they look at the flight tickets. They're like $1,300. That's how much it cost me to go to Blade. I think it's like $1,300.
Well, if I'm ever up in that area, I'll hit you up to show me some Kendama tricks and Balisongtricks. So.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Awesome.
And like you said, like I'm always like, if I ever see you online and we'll chat, like I'll hop on and.
Please do, man. It's great to reach out to people and hang out. That's what this is all about. And I super appreciate it. I know there's a lot of other people out there watching that, and other people that will see this that couldn't make it to watch right now live, that will see it later. And we all really appreciate you. And yeah.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. There's just so much there's so much knowledge that can be thrown out there. So like, you know, we'll have to do this again for sure.
Oh, this conversation could go on another hour easily, for sure.
No, like, you know, we can be here till the morning.
Yeah. Part 2.
Part 2. Yeah. Hey, Monday.
Cheers, my man. Tell your wife thank you for letting you hang out.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
All right, man.
Hey, man.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye.